Hey, this is Bellisimo. Wanted to give you an energy update, the current of the energy flow and where we're at and where we are going to go. So most of you may have felt a lot of exhaustion or energy of overwhelm or depression or crying. Now, you may have felt this because it was the swell of the emotional landscape very deep within us and in our backspace is what I call it. It's where our energy gets stored and stuck early on. And these backspace pictures, especially kind of in that moon, started to rise up, started to illuminate. And if we don't confront it heart on, facing it, then it gets repressed. We stick it back in the shed. And when we do, it gets stronger. And soon it's going to pop out and then we have to deal with it. So if we can actually look and see where our thoughts lead us, because what do you think, feel, do, and be? What that has to do with is, okay, what are my thoughts? What I've noticed is a lot of people's thoughts define the edge of the space. What does that mean? Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking something positive, but it's because I am afraid of the world situation and I don't want to look at what I don't want to see. And if I think something negative, am I creating that reality? But if we can just see what our thoughts do and not necessarily go into the feelings of the thoughts, because if you see your attention going into the right or the left, the duality, and you start to focus externally on those, there is an automatic response of your emotions, of your feelings. Now that is really what we're dealing with. And take the time and opportunity to allow the anger to come up or the suppressed emotions, because once that comes up, you can allow it to release so that you can be free of it. By just identifying the emotion coming up, then you are not held hostage. But most people, what do? They suppress it, and by suppressing it, then we resist it, and that resistance then we start to create with it. So a lot of times what will happen is we start to notice the thoughts. It's like, I don't want war, even though, I am trying to create peace. And under all of those thoughts is a lot of fear. Now, those fear is connected a lot of times to our childhood from very early on, from about 0 to 7. And that fear then, we are trying to survive. By surviving, we keep our attention outside of ourselves. We're looking at all the possible threats. That fear, when we're impacted by it, now we start doing things. So I want you to be aware of what do you do? What do you think, feel? Now, what are you starting to do? Starting to do things is maybe you're even making some action toward life or toward nature or trying to help in any way. But if you're responding from that fear, you're creating with that fear. And that response keeps you in a survival situation. Most people want to make a lot of money because, and even when they get a lot of money, they're still in that survival because of that fear that drives them out of their space. So the being is where we want to go. The being means that we can identify where does our mind go? To the right, to the left, to the ends of the space, to the duality. Let it go there. But if you can occupy and redirect your attention to the heart, that center space, then what happens is it unifies the two into the whole, into the greater whole. And by looking within at that heart, now this is the unknown. This is where you can create space in order for God to come in. By opening up the space and being in gratitude for your life, for where you're at, this is where you can have the choice point. Am I going to be in my mind, which will bring me into fear? But the difference between fear and faith is I am celebrating, I'm acknowledging, I am giving thanks for my life, for the situations, even if they haven't already existed, for something to come into existence by acknowledging it, giving it gratitude, thanking God, thanking Source. Now you move out of fear into faith. And that response to life, to bringing in life, means that you're owning and occupying space. What I've been noticing in my readings is where people abandon space. So what is abandoning space? It means our attention is outside of us, outside of our heart. That means that a lot of us have early wounds where we weren't cared for, where maybe in the environment, we had to be the parent early on. And if we were in survival, then we don't know how to quite focus within. So May is the month of mothers. So now moving through that full moon, where we're at is how can I mother myself? Because look and see what you do for others. What you do is really what you wanted to receive. And a lot of people are wonderful givers. They can give to everyone. They give good advice. But the advice you're even giving is really the advice you need for yourself. So how you mother others, how you care and provide needs to be turned back on you. So how can I care for myself? And when you think about a mother caring for a child, she's singing to the child. She's creating an environment of love, of nurturing, of support. It's kind of like if you have an orchid in your house. Orchids, I don't even do anything with my orchids, but I sing in my house. I run the heart wave of love. So orchids respond to the subtle. They respond to the environment and what is in the space. What do babies respond to? The care, the singing, the love, the heart connection. And when you connect to your heart and set your heart frequency at love, joy, now that starts to emanate and fill the space. And by letting that wave run, you don't have to solve any problems. You're just occupying space so you can exist. Most people, when they've had lack of nurturing, they seek a business or something to nurture them, or they nurture others, like food industry, something oral, like smoking, whatever it may be, because it is about the attachment. So in order for us to show up in a new way, you have to look at what it is that your thoughts are. You have to see what those feelings are that are coming up, because the anger or any repressed emotions, you want to let that out. Because if you can let that out and open up and let it be free, moving down that stream, now you can fill yourself up with the Holy Spirit. And by letting that go, you can focus within your heart. Why is that so important? By focusing here, you're focusing on being filled up. When we focus on the heart, it fills us up with source energy, with the planet's energy. It is within the heart space where these two overlap, create that greater whole. And by occupying that space, now we've done something and resolved our initial childhood wound, abandonment, lack of care, or where we grew up and maybe people physically were there, but they checked out because they couldn't sustain or be in the space. They either did it with drugs or alcohol or disassociating. That is abandonment. And so we can redo this month, in the month of May. And it's interesting because in that month of May, celebrating not only Mother Earth, the carer of all life, it can reestablish our relationship and connection with her, because she is the one that bears life. It can change our relationship with God, because God gives us life, spirit, the eternal, the truth. We are not the body. And everyone is going through a body change. Everyone physically is being transformed. So we're letting the old die so the new can be reborn. I love you, and check out Bellisimo.com, subscribe, and also book a session at Bellisimo.com. Love you.